Good morning, everyone. I'm Sahar, and you're watching Rethink with Sahar. This is a platform where we rethink the things, we try to reimagine everything, and try to find out new truths. And we talk with guests who are pioneers in their own fields. So today we have with us Chris Michael. Hello, Chris.
Hey, Sahar. Hi, everybody who's listening. Good to be here on the Rethink podcast. It's very exciting.
Very exciting, and
Yeah.
thank you for coming. And Chris Michael, if he doesn't need any introduction, he's a celebrity entertainer who bends the minds of those who transform the world. So he is very much at the top. And from there, he has worked with three different royal families, including the British royal family, and with FBI, with ABC News, and a lot of other uh, uh, celebrities and big media. So you're welcome, Chris. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I woke up, I got myself ready, kind of meditated on what we're talking about a little bit, and then I just spilled some juice on my computer. I was telling you, so I'm that's one of those things that just is gonna always happen on the day that you're filming. Nothing's ever perfect, and that's a life lesson in and of itself. But yeah, for the most part, today's good. We're getting an early start to this, and I know that you're doing this live, so it's nice to do a podcast episode that's not in the middle of the day. And you're getting all my thoughts and creativity before I've put them into anything else today. So whatever you send my way will be fresh, which is cool.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. And Chris, you have worked you're a magician. And how did you come to this field? How did you decide to entertain people and at the same time change their perception?
I mean, I've talked a lot about my story in Coming of Magic, and I've shared that on a lot of platforms, just how I got into it. But the thing that I don't really ever talk about too much is why I pursued it as a career. And a big part of it was, I was having to pay for college, and I was paying for it all on my own. I didn't have any help. And when I had some issues with my financial aid coming through, I didn't really know what to do. And one of my friends just suggested that I go and try to make some money doing magic, which is at the time just a hobby for me, because he saw a couple of people in Richmond, which is where I live, Richmond, Virginia, at the time when I was going to school, that would do magic on the streets, and they would end up getting these buckets of cash. He said, if you did that for a few days, you might be able to pay off, a good chunk of the semester. So I thought about it and I gave that a shot. And it wasn't just the fact that people were willing to pay for the talent that I had, because I didn't know that people were willing to do that. I just enjoyed performing, but seeing that my passion for it and my ability to be good at something just because I was able to hyper focus on it allowed people to see it as valuable. I was like, okay, I can do this and I can make some money while in college. And it wasn't until around the time that I graduated where I'm like, I have a degree in psychology, but I'm already making far more from doing this than I would with anything I'd be doing with my psychology degree. And I'm sure that I love this far more. So I'm just going to keep pursuing that. I think if you love something, the money will come.
Exactly. You have to love it first. Chris, it's like most of us are stuck in our lives doing something that we do not love, right? And it's said that if you love what you do, you don't work for even a single day. So how's that feeling of not working and still working and getting so much out of it, that all that you have wanted ever?
Yeah, I think that you never work a day in your life to a point. I think when you really love what you do and you're passionate about it and you're focused on it, there'll be several years. Like for the first 8 years of my life, it really didn't feel like I was ever working. It was my passion, my hobby, my love. I put it before almost everything. I put it before even myself because I was so fixated on it. But there's a point where you want to balance those things, because if you really are, and a lot of entrepreneurs become obsessive people. That's one of the traits of a good entrepreneur, somebody who can hyperfixate and obsess. That's not going to necessarily be the most beneficial trait to have in other areas of your life, like relationships or families or friendships. And so when you start to realize you want to enjoy those things and you have had some income that's come from not working a day in your life, well, you want to scale. And so you start bringing on other team members and you start having people who work for you. And now you're developing skill sets that you didn't necessarily get into the business for, but are
Mhm.
important for you to be able to be sustainable. So that's where the work does come in. It will feel a little bit like work when you're reaching something that you're incompetent at, managing a staff or dealing with finances and taxes. And no matter what you do, you're going to have tax day, right? And that to
Exactly.
everyone that feels like work. So I don't want people to get scared if what they're doing as a passion sometimes can ebb and flow with how much they love it and how much they enjoy it. It's going to ebb and flow. You're going to have days where you wake up and you don't want to perform that show, or you don't want to paint that canvas, or you don't want to wash that car. There's always going to be a day where it feels like that. Don't be scared by that, and don't take that as an emergency sign. That just means that you're human. We're not meant to do one thing over and over and over again, and that's okay. Find the parts of it in those moments that you do enjoy and remember why you got into it. But the whole you won't work a day in your life,
Mhm. Exactly.
maybe not for a long time, but it will happen eventually.
It will happen eventually. And at
Absolutely.
least I have heard about that passionate moments, those passionate moments when you climb up the stage, the moment that the curtain is opening and you're in front of the audience, and then that 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, they just pass by in a moment. And
Yeah.
then you are again, oh, I did it.
Yeah.
Right? So what is that kind of a feeling? How do you define it?
It's so fascinating you bring it up. Just yesterday, I was talking to my friend about he gave me a term that I'd never heard of called stage health. And
Mhm.
what that is like it doesn't matter how sick you feel or how anxious you are or sad you are. Somehow in our nature as a performer, when you get on stage, whether it's the adrenaline or the fact that you really need to be tuned in and focused, it's like all that stuff just goes away. You are just focused in that moment. And you're right, it flies by. If you told me to sit here and stare at the computer screen for an hour, it would feel like an hour. But on stage, that time, it just flies by because
It's
you are
fun.
calculating so many things. You are so in control of the experience and you have so much you want to share that often in hours just not even enough time to do it. So yeah, it feels like two things. One, it feels like the whole world disappears and the only thing that matters are the people in that room, that audience, and what you're doing for them. But the other thing that happens is that the time really can fly by, and that's really beautiful for people who need to experience that. I always think about that, like I don't know what my audience is going through. Sometimes I'm going through stuff when I get on stage and they'll never know. There there's hundreds of people in the audience, sometimes thousands, and I don't know
Awesome.
what every single person's going through. So to give them an hour that flies by where they don't think about anything that's going on at home, I think is a really,
Exactly.
really valuable thing for some people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Uh, Chris, you have worked with royal families. How
Yeah.
was that experience? Uh, was it the fairy tale kind of a thing that we generally see in the on the TV, or was it more formal? How was it?
A little mix of both. It's interesting. I've worked for three different royal families: the Kingdom of Bahrain, the British royal family, and why is the third one escaping me? Oh, and some like Saudi royalty as well.
Okay.
And it's a mix of both. It will never live up to the expectation that you have. And at the same time, there's a level of opulence and elegance, and also just the people who are taking care of you. Like you usually will have a liaison or a runner that's there to just make sure the performer has what they need. They'll check in with you. They'll take care of your rider and your green room and all that stuff. I will say the people who pay attention to detail at those events at the level of royalty is
Mhm.
phenomenal. You get to really see why they get so much done and how they are um, at the top of their game just because the staff that they keep, even like I would never say low level staff, but even just assistants that they have, secretaries that they have are so on the point with everything. It feels important because of that. But at the end of the day, you're still giving a service. So you're still kind of sitting there, eating this incredible food in these beautiful rooms, but you still have to deliver something. And
That's
so it's hard to really take in the beauty of that moment. And just like you said, it flies by in an instant. So, you may have 15 minutes with Princess Beatrice to show her something, but you get in, you're worried about doing a good job, you crush it, it goes well, and then you guys part ways and you have to go, oh my gosh, I just performed for royalty. But it feels the same, it feels the same as anything else. It's like when you're a kid, you're so excited to have a beard, you can't wait to have a beard, and then you have one and it's with you every day. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
I
and
guess I
then
have a
you're
beard
used to
now.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's important to be grateful in those moments and really
Yeah.
like allow that to provide value for yourself and feel proud, but also not rest on your laurels. And while yes, that can be something that provides validity for what you do,
Mm-hmm.
you can't let it complete you. You can't let it be the thing that defines you, because that feeling is always fleeting. You're always going to be searching for the next thing. It's like becoming a celebrity. Like everyone thinks it's going to be like their dream. And then you get there and it becomes normal and you're like, oh, it's just
Yeah.
another day. So
Yeah.
same type of feeling, but being able to see the staff working at such a high level, that to me is what stands out.
Wow.
It's really cool, and they do take good care of you.
Mm. And Chris, you're talking about like you have to be yourself. You don't have to lose yourself, right? So what is it that defines you? You said that these when you get into these experiences, they should not define you,
Yeah.
right? They are part of you, but they are not you. What is it that is you? That is Chris?
Yeah, it's okay to use your experiences as leverage, right? Some people want social proof that you're good at it. So it's okay to let people know that you've done those things, because if you're good enough for royalty, you're good enough for their corporate party or whatever else. It gives people a little bit of trust and validity to what you do. But it still ultimately can't define you, because the only thing that's ever going to really matter is how you come across to your audience. What's the feeling and the vibe they get when they're in the room? Why are they
Mhm.
choosing you over another service provider? And that's where we step into that personal branding. The fact that you, in and of yourself, are a unique individual that has a unique set of circumstances, upbringing, storyline. Even if you don't feel unique, you are. And I know that sounds so cheesy, but when I worked for America's Got Talent as a consultant, I would help people really try to figure out what is going to be their backstory. What are they going to share that's going to hook the audience to make them support you? And a lot of
Mhm.
people don't realize that their experience, because it's so normal to them, because that's what they've lived every day, actually is interesting. And so it's more important that you think about what it is that brought you to where you are. Is it the skill set that you have, your unique take on your art form? Is it your
Mhm.
magnetic personality? Is it your dry sense of humor? There's all these different things that's an intersection, a million different variables that make you, that all
Mhm.
intersect at this perfect point, which is you. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people overthink branding. Um,
Okay.
and what I will say is it's really hard to define your brand on your own. Having people who know you and work with you that can help you articulate the words that describe you, that can also help you find a look that accentuates your brand. Because a lot of time, if people are finding you online or seeing your social media, they don't really know who you are, but they can get a sense of it by using context clues from the color palettes you're using, from the
Yes.
set design that you have, from the style of art that you do. And I think it's really important to understand how to communicate that visually. Like I went back and forth about whether or not I put on my branded suit on this podcast. And I was thinking, I was like, I'm talking about personal branding. I really should. But I was like, I'm going to wear something that brings me back to just casual day in the office. I'm about to go do some meetings. This is how I would dress every day, not
Uh-huh.
necessarily how I would go into a show, but I
Mhm.
have my set fashion pieces
Okay.
that communicate what I do. So when people see me, as soon as I walk out, they have a sense for the elegance that I bring, the level of intentionality that I have, and then I let my personality speak for the rest of it. But
Wow.
the aesthetic of your brand definitely helps you put your foot in the door, and that's one of the
Mhm.
hardest things for you to find out for yourself. The only thing I'm going to leave on with this question, which I think is important, is just remember that there is always a reason why people would choose you. There's 8 billion people in the world. There are people who are like you with the same sensibilities and upbringing that would find peace and comfort with working with you versus another vendor, just because you're you.
Exactly, just because you are you. And Chris, you worked with the FBI and you said that you brought a group of individuals into a team,
Yeah.
right? So, how did you do it? And how are you able to get into the minds of the people?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I have a psychology degree and I'm really fascinated with mentalism. I'm always a student of studying body language and trying to know what people are thinking before they think it. It's also a little bit of the fact that, I do this. y- I had years where I performed almost every single day and I was meeting hundreds of people or thousands of people a week. I just sort of noticed the statistics and patterns of what people were going to say before they said it when I asked questions a certain way. And I'd be able
Mm-hmm.
to use that to anticipate the responses and make it seem like magic, right?
Mm.
Um, because that skill set, I got hired by the FBI to do. I've actually done a few events for them, but two that stand out are I did this family weekend for them for people who are completing their training where they hadn't been able to see their families for a while. So they were able to bring them in. And a lot of them were ex military or military. So they lived on bases. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, they came in and I got to entertain them and give them just a chance to think about something other than work, congratulate them for all the everything that they had accomplished, and just give them an hour to sort of be themselves. And one of the things that I was able to utilize that to pitch it as a team building activity was we wanted people to see their real personalities because the humanity of these people is going to bring them closer together, not just what they're good at their job. And that's the same with any workplace. When you know the people personally and know the little quirks and hobbies that they have, you connect with them much deeper than if all you know is, hey, that's Lindsay from HR and she's a stickler for paperwork. It
Yeah.
allows you to form these deeper connections. So that was one
And
event I did. The other one was this, believe it or not, called a Pharmapalooza. And I can't say where they host it, but it's out in the country. And it's just a chance for these agents to let their hair down, so to speak, to drink, to listen to music, to party, and just have fun. And it felt like they were already very connected, but they really only get a chance to get together like that once a year. And so if it's up to their own devices, they'll go to the person that they talk to, that they feel comfortable with and make small talk and have a drink. And they don't really branch out. But by seeing entertainment and asking different people to interact, putting them in different groups to participate in activity, those conversations flow a little bit better. And then, I'm encouraging that conversation as a performer. So
mhm.
people are able to make connections with people they wouldn't normally talk to. And that's going to help that team work more cohesively as well. So a bit surface level, it goes deeper than that, but that's the main thing that I was able to do to help support them. And by the way, it worked because they had me come back and there's friendships that started because of my show that have lasted, 5 years now.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Really proud of that. I think it's super cool.
Yeah. And like, why do you think when people they like what I feel like is when you are the kind of energy you are carrying yourself, the kind of attitude that you're carrying yourself, you're able to when you're on the stage, you're in a place of power position, sort of. And when you are there with that attitude, you're able to transfer that attitude to the people. Right. And so any such moment when it was super easy to relate with your audience and when it was a little bit tough.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I always feel that when I'm able to get to know the crowd, have dinner with them or mingle with them during a cocktail hour, or even sometimes they'll fly me out, a couple days before at a conference and I get to like sit in on some of the sessions, it becomes
Mhm.
a lot easier for me to connect with them because I get a sense of their industry. Excuse me. Sorry. I get a sense of their industry. I get a sense of how they interact with each other, what their sense of humor is. And there are groups that I did not expect to connect with that just by observing them for a day, I felt so much like these were my people. One such group was Society of Government Urologists. That is a real group that I've performed for. It
Mhm.
does not sound fun at all. It doesn't sound like they would be like the type of people that I would be able to like get out of their shells. But my goodness, they had the best sense of humor. They were a little rough around the edges. They deal with urinary tract things and, sexual organs and bodily fluids. And so like in my head, I'm like, oh, they're going to be so serious. But because they know the nature of their work poses a lot of questions and for a lot of people is very unserious, they were
Mhm.
so in to that and they loved not taking themselves seriously. And I was like, yes. So that was really fun. The times that I struggle to connect with them are, I mean, I had one recently, like if I am going through something that's hard for me to push through and pull together, which doesn't happen often, but I do experience that. If I'm in my own head about something, it becomes a little hard for me to be so present with the audience. I just kind of feel that need to like get through it. It's very rare, but it does happen. Um, and in those moments, I'll really remind myself to take a moment to connect. I'll walk around the tables during dinner and say hello, or just ask people, "Hey, what's something I need to know about the group? What's a fun fact about the people in here? What's a funny story around the office?" I also, in order to mitigate that, get a customization form from every client about what are some common challenges everybody faces? What are some things that if you say these words in the company, everyone will groan? What are some things that if you say these things at the company, everyone will celebrate? And so I get a ton of questions like that asked so that even if I'm feeling like I'm struggling to connect, I can be backstage reading through that script and planning some places to insert jokes that will pull them together, say some things that make them feel like I understand them. And then when they feel like I'm a part of the group and understand their life and what they're going through and what they do at work, it's a lot easier for them to connect with me, and I don't necessarily need to do as much hard work to connect with them.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
that's really true. When you're at the same level, when you're able to peep into others' minds, they know you, you know them. It becomes easier. Yeah, and
absolutely.
we were talking about personal branding. You just talked about it, and would you like to tell us something more about it, like how a beginning person, who a beginner can build their brand, and when how at the middle level, people at the middle level, and they can better themselves at this.
Yeah, I had a note that I had made about this, and unfortunately, I'd spilled on it, but I had this really great list of ways to identify your brand. The chances are you're probably not doing something that hasn't been done before. The world's been around for millions of years, and there's been billions and billions of people who have lived. And, it's not that everything's been done, but you're probably doing it in a unique way. Maybe you're doing it more affordably. Maybe you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it with luxury. Maybe it's more white glove and formal. Maybe you do it quicker. Maybe you do it um, with levity. Maybe you do it. There's another example, but there's all these different ways that you can do things differently than someone's done them before. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
big sense of what your brand is. Like for me, my brand has always been I'm going to do magic shows, but I'm going to be personable. I'm going to really connect and I'm going to feel like friends with the people that I work with. When I have clients, those good clients feel indistinguishable from friends. That's a part of my brand. I don't
Wow.
necessarily need that for my furniture company. My furniture company can be, I can focus on things that have provenance and quality, right? That they're
Yeah.
standing and long lasting. That can be their brand. For me, it's hard for me to relate to that because my whole business is me. I have, 8 staff members that work around the clock for me, but they're all working to push and promote my brand, to sell me and what I do, and let people know that I'm a valuable asset at a conference or company party. And I've had to really try to figure out what my brand is, and it's okay if it changes because your sensibilities as a person will change in 7 years from where they are now. It's okay to move that, and it's okay for your clients to come with you because at your core, you're always going to be the same person. So, like I said, ask around to people who are close with you the words that describe your brand, what it is that you do. What are things that you feel when working with me? If you collect a lot of reviews, read those reviews. What is the common compliment that you get? That's something you can really lean into. That could be something that you put at the top of your website above the fold as your main copy,
Mm-hmm.
Who do you work for? Also, that's the other thing is your target market really defines your brand. If you're working for adults, and you're a performer, you're probably not going to wear a clown outfit and a big red nose and glasses. If you're working
That's
for kids that are, in preschool age, that might be exactly what you want to do to be appealing to them, to speak to that. So also consider your market, but never, ever, ever betray who you are or what you want to do for the people that you want to work for. Find where those things cross over. For me, I found that young professionals looking to change up a typical meeting where they've done it the same way for 20 years and they want something new and fresh and exciting. Usually people who are a little bit more of party people who are a little bit more social and outgoing. Um, that's who I target to. And yes, I do high end expensive events. You don't always think of like the young party professional as the people who run those companies, but I found the companies that are run by those people and work for them.
mm-hmm.
One more hot tip I'm going to give you. One more hot tip. I often find that people will misinterpret their communication style with their brand. If they have a specific way of moving people through the funnel, they think of that as branding. It's not. Your sales process is separate from your brand. Yes, your brand should come through in that, the fonts that you use, the way you communicate with them, but your process, what you need to know and what you need to gather from a client doesn't necessarily have to be a part of your branding. And here's something to consider. This is my hot tip. Everyone should read the DISC profile. Read about it online, do a Google search, figure it out. DISC, DISC. This is a way that it's a set personality type that everybody has that tells you how people like to do business. So my brand is very sociable, right? It's very personable. But someone on the DISC profile, D being dominance, I being influence, S being structured, and C being conscientious. If I'm dealing with a client that is on one of those letters, I know that they're going to want to interact in a different way. D is dominant. So that means that this is somebody who wants answers quick. They don't want to waste a lot of their time. They want to book it. Usually they're willing to spend whatever money it takes. They just want it off their plate and done. Yes, I want to build relationships with people and be chatty and communicate with them in a way that makes us feel like friends. But if that person just wants a solution quickly, you know what? Great. I can sacrifice that in a way that, hey, tell me what you need to know. What can I answer for you? Awesome. We'll just send that to you on a sheet. We'll send you an invoice. We're good to go. And an influence is somebody who really wants to have emotion in the sale. They really want to feel assured in their decision. They want to know, if you do this, people are going to be singing your praises. They're going to be so proud of what you've accomplished and pulled off, and you're going to look like a superstar. Those are the people who want to drive fast and feel the wind in their hair. And that's the people I get along with the most, because that's how I am. I make a lot of decisions based on emotionality. Wow. You have structure. These are the people who just want to do things the way that they know how to do them, the way that it's always been done, and the way that they have confidence will work because they've seen it done before. And you have conscientious. That's the C. These are people who are very risk averse, that are afraid of making decisions and going outside of their comfort zone because they're not wanting to have their neck on the line. They are a little bit anxious about what switching things up or doing something new can bring to the table. And so those last two, S and C, structure and conscientious, a little bit harder to sell, but if you can learn that DISC profile, you can learn how to create an approach that works for your brand to deal with each type of client. And I think that'll also stop you from questioning your process, because you may have one client that makes you rethink the entire process you've built.
Yes.
You don't have to. Everyone's different. And so if you can have a process unique for each of those four and just identify who that client is, train your sales staff to identify that and deal with them in that way, that'll really help you stay true to your brand and not second guess your processes that may make you shift and change, every other week. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, definitely. Okay. It's like you have to deal with the people the way they deal with you. Yeah. Look at them, what kind of a personality they are. You cannot always be yourself be dominating. You have to take the other person into consideration and work according to them. And that's a really very good tip. And thank you, Chris. Thank you so much for being here. And I really enjoyed talking with you. And hopefully we see you again. And thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Wish me luck cleaning up this juice store on my computer. Fingers crossed it's going to be okay. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to me. My Instagram is Chris Mike Magic, M-I-K-E, not M-I-C, Chris Mike Magic. You can reach out to me there, or you can email me. My website is chrismikemagic.com. Look me up. Take a look at what I do. I'm actually in the process of a rebrand. Big surprise. It's my passion. So I'm working on something new. I really hope that you guys will check it out in a few weeks and see where it's progressed. But I'm always here for questions, and I'd love to work with you. If you have a company and need some entertainment, we're here and available. It'd be a really good time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sahar. This was fun.
Okay. So this was Mr. Chris Michael. He's a magician. He is not only a magician, but he is a brand in himself, as we just watched him, and he has done so much in his life. He has developed his own thought process about building a personal brand, about being what he is, and that's really amazing to know. And next week we will see. I will see you at the same time, same day, Tuesday, 10:15 a.m. EST. And till then, thank you so much, and have a good day.